Hi, and welcome back to Short and Sweet. I'm Susie Whitfield with the Real Macaron Company. Today we're going to be making Jam Crumble Squares. These are adapted from an American recipe and are always a great hit when I take them to parties and gatherings. The thing I really like about these is that they're really flexible as to what you use in them in terms of jam. You can also use some mincemeat, so if you found some mincemeat in the cupboard and want to use that up, you can use that as well. So I'm first going to talk about what ingredients we need, and then I'll go through the baking equipment that you need as well. I'm first going to use some unsalted butter. When you're baking like this, you need to make sure that your butter is nice and soft. I've actually had this out at room temperature for a couple of days and it was still too hard. So I've put it in a fan oven with no heat in the fan oven, but just the fan turned on for about 30-45 minutes, and that will soften it nicely. I caution people about putting it in a microwave because it is so easy for it to start to melt, and it happens within seconds. So if it's nice and warm outside, room temperature is fine. Otherwise, quick tip is to pop it in the fan oven without any heat, just the fan. I also have some vanilla extract. I have some plain flour. As I said at the beginning, I've adapted this from an American recipe. American flour is slightly different to our flour in Britain, and I've actually used a combination half and half of strong white bread flour and plain flour. If you have some strong white bread flour, be sure and use that with the plain flour half and half. Or if not, go ahead and use plain flour. It won't make that much of a difference. I have some castor sugar, 150 grams of castor sugar, a pinch of salt. I have some flaked almonds here. You can use slivered almonds. If you don't have any almonds, it's okay to leave those out. And I also have some granola. The important thing to remember about your granola is you don't want any with dried fruit in it. If you only have granola with dried fruit in it, or you want to substitute muesli, that's absolutely fine. But you want to make sure and take any raisins or dried apricots or anything out. Reason being is it's going into a crumble topping on the top, and the dried fruit will burn. So be sure and take those out, or just buy a granola or have a granola that just has nuts and oats. If you don't have any granola or you can't find any and you want to make the recipe, try some toasted oats and some chopped nuts instead. And then we have our jam. I'm using raspberry jam. Apricot jam is also absolutely beautiful in this, and as I said at the beginning, you can use mincemeat if you have a jar of mincemeat and you want to use that up out of the cupboard. To get started, I'm using my stand mixer today. You may have a stand mixer at home that you want to use. If so, you want to be sure and use the paddle attachment on it. So I've got this set up. If you don't have a stand mixer, don't worry. You can do it with a wooden spoon, or you can also do it with one of the handheld little mixers. So I'm going to pour my sugar in with my butter. And now I'm going to turn my mixer on and give these a mix on a low speed. My butter and sugar are now creamed together, and I'm going to add the vanilla extract now. That's a teaspoon of vanilla extract going in. And I'm going to give that a little mix on medium speed now. I've put my flour and salt into the mixture. I've sieved that in, and now I'm going to give this a mix on low speed. If you really give it quite a hard mix, you'll develop the gluten in the flour, and you'll end up with quite tough, chewy bars. And the idea is they're quite crumbly like shortbread. So do remember that. So I'm going to put this on and just mix it until the flour's mixed in. My mixture has now come together. While I was bringing it together, I did stop it and give it a little bit of a scrape down with the spatula. That's just to make sure all the butter is off the side and the flour and everything incorporates evenly together. So I'm now ready to pop this into my pan. I have a this is called a brownie tin, and it sort of slides out and back in. You don't have to have this. You do need sort of a square rectangular tin. This is a 9 by 9 inch square tin. So it's going to go into here. But what I'm going to do first is take about 1/3 of the mixture out to mix in with the granola, and that will give me a nice crumbly topping on the top. So I'm going to take about 1/3 out, pop it onto my surface here. You can use a chopping board or whatever for that. If you have a granite surface, it can just go straight out. And I'm going to be sure and line my tin with some non-stick baking paper. Remember to use non-stick baking paper, not greaseproof paper, so it doesn't stick. And now I'm taking my granola. This is 85 grams of granola, and I'm going to mix that in with the sort of shortbread biscuit mixture. You can use your hands for this. You can use a wooden spoon for this. The idea is just to kind of mix it up so we have a nice sort of crunchy topping to go on top of our bars. I have preheated the oven to 160 degrees fan, and now I'm going to take the 2/3 of my mixture left behind in the bowl, and I'm going to place it into my prepared baking dish. It's okay for the mixture to be a little bit crumbly because it will come together as I press it in. And you can use your fingers, you can use the back of a metal spoon, whatever you want. Now that I have evenly pressed my shortbread biscuit mixture onto the bottom of my baking dish, I'm going to add the jam. And I'm just going to spread this on top. And if you don't have quite a whole jar of jam, that's absolutely fine. You just want to cover the base. So it's kind of about this size jar or slightly smaller. If you like a lot of jam, add a bit extra. If you don't like it quite so jammy, just use a little bit less. Okay, so now I'm ready to put my crumble topping on. This goes on, just sprinkle this over. This is nearly ready to go into the oven, so I'm going to sprinkle over the flaked almonds now. Don't worry if you don't have any almonds, this isn't absolutely necessary. This is ready to go into the oven now. As a reminder, it's 160 degrees fan, and it's going in for about 45 minutes. Keep an eye on it. You don't want the top to burn, and you don't want the almonds to burn. So I'm going to take this and put it in the oven now. My crumble squares are now out of the oven. Be especially careful when you take them out because the jam is absolutely bubbling hot and it will burn you if you get it on you. So be really careful taking them out. They need to cool. They need to cool for about an hour. So let these cool for about an hour and then take them out of the pan and cut them into squares. All you need to do to finish them off is just give them a light dusting of icing sugar if you want to. Otherwise, they're just fine as they are. Be sure and store them in an airtight tin, and you can also freeze them if they last that long. They never last very long in my house. So, thank you for joining me today for the Real Macaron Company Short and Sweet Bakes. We have some fantastic Easter ideas coming up, so watch on Facebook soon for those. And send us your suggestions if there's something you want to bake, something you want to bake along with us. Let us know. And also, if you make the Jam Crumble Squares, please send us your photos. So, keep calm and carry on baking, and I'll see you next time.